All eyes are on Iowa for the caucuses tonight, and yours truly came in second in those caucuses a few years ago, so I've got some inside information maybe I can tell you later. But another contest wrapped up yesterday in New York City, an international moot court competition, and Regent University was the big winner. Best brief, best argument. And we have the winning team and their coach here with us, and I just wanted to start this program with a very high note with some wonderful students. And Jeff Brow is here. He's the Regent professor who coached this team. And with us, we've got Palmer Hurst, Christy Hurst, and Sandra Alcade. And they're a tremendous team. Jeff, good to see you.
Great to see you, Dr. Robinson.
Now, tell me, what was this competition that they won? They won it all across the board.
Yes, it's the Price Media International Law Competition, and this team won the Americas region. It's a worldwide competition. Finals will be in Oxford, and this team beat all the teams from the North, Central, and South Americas.
North, Central. I mean, give me a few schools that they beat, just so to put it in perspective.
Well, in the finals, they defeated Valparaiso University from the United States.
Yeah.
In the semifinals, Osgoode Hall Law School from Canada.
Okay.
They beat Florida International University.
All right.
And there were teams from the Bahamas, Brazil. Yeah.
Well, I understand second in this thing was who was the school that came in the competition second?
Valparaiso University.
Valparaiso, okay. Well, what are they going to do now? They're going to go to Oxford?
They're going to go to Oxford, and they're going to meet teams from all over the world. So, for instance, today, there's a regional tournament going on in Cairo, Egypt. And so there'll be some teams coming from there and from all over.
Well, now, this team had the best brief out of all the briefs in the whole hemisphere.
That's right.
And the best oral argument. So this lady over here did the argument. Let's talk to her.
Okay.
You introduce her to.
Yeah, this is Sandra Alcade.
Yes, Sandra.
And Sandra was one of our oralists, and Sandra also was one of the members of the entire team that wrote the briefs that won the best brief or the best memorial award.
Right. Well, Sandra, what did you have to argue? What was the premise that you were working on?
So in our final round, I was arguing on behalf of the state. It was a fictional state. And I argued that the defendant in the case had actually used his words, freedom of expression, to incite terrorist activity against individuals within that particular state. So.
And you were saying he should be put in jail or not prosecuted?
Well, at the international level, that he should remain in jail because he was already prosecuted and convicted.
He should remain in jail?
Yes. So it went through all of the state courts and was now at the international
and
level.
So the international tribunal ruled in your favor?
Well, we'll see. They didn't tell us what they thought the merits of the case were, but they said we were the best oralists. So.
Best oralist. And who was up against you? Was there somebody arguing on the other side while you were in there?
Yes, it was Palmer and I were the two oralists for our school arguing against Valparaiso University. They were arguing.
What is Valparaiso? Am I supposed to know? That's in Chile, isn't it?
No, this one's in Indiana.
I'm kidding. Go ahead. It is in Chile, too, but all right. Were they good?
They were.
Were they?
Yeah, they were very good. We had faced them in a preliminary round and had won against them the first time, but it was a close contest.
Yeah. All right.
This time, it was not close. In my humble opinion, I thought this team did a great job.
Well, now, Christy and Palmer, you were writing the brief.
Yeah. We all three wrote the brief.
All three wrote the brief?
I was the brief writer, and so my job was to make sure everything looked smooth and clean.
I understand this first time in history there was no glitch in the brief, no complaint at all. It must have been a perfect brief.
Well, thank you. Yes.
All right, now what did you say in your brief?
We talked about both sides of the issue. So she argued one side, he argued the other, and then we had two different decisions. So we have the one decision that's saying it was right to be prosecuted and one that was wrong to be prosecuted. So we had over 80 pages that we had to write that argued both of those two sides.
Well, if you were doing a Supreme Court thing, you would be going to Supreme Court decisions, and you'd say, well, Supreme Court record so-and-so on this case decided in 1850, the justices said, and then you put that as your What was your reference point on this one?
We had to be a little more smooth than that for this international law because there's nothing that's binding. So it's one court says this, another court says this, and another court says this. And so we had to kind of mold those all together into pretty paragraphs. And so there was never, this court held this. Instead, you would just write what they held and then in the footnotes describe which court it was. And we used a little flowery language with Lockean language, trying to make the side for the more American point of view. And
well, I have been very critical of the Supreme Court by dipping into foreign jurisprudence because we say you're supposed to interpret the Constitution of the United States. What was the Constitution that this court was supposed to abide under? Was there a Constitution?
It's supposed to abide by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as well as an international covenant on civil and political rights. So we looked at a compendium of international law as interpreted by African, Latin American, European courts around the world to determine how we should argue for both sides of this argument. So.
And that was your, if I can use the term, ace in the hole. I mean, because you were so broad in your scope of your brief, right?
Yeah, well, that definitely gave us an edge. Our research gave us an edge on our competition, certainly, because we were able to pull from around the world and use the best language to make our case.
Well, where did Valparaiso come in? They were just sticking with United States jurisprudence or not?
For the most part, but we actually thought the Canadian team that we faced in the semifinals was by far the strongest team at the tournament, other than us.
Yeah.
And they had a brief that was excellent as well as we did.
Well, our team got beat a few years ago by some Indians. Are you going to really get into that same bunch of Indians?
It's possible.
You think so?
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be teams from India. There's a round in Afghanistan this
Good
year.
grief.
There's Asian teams, European teams. I think 30 to 40 teams will be in Oxford along with this team.
What is the prize when you get through winning it?
Well, it's the World Championship.
That's prize enough.
Yeah.
And it's going to be in another few weeks?
Yes, I think six
March.
weeks.
End of
March.
End of March. You will travel to Oxford.
Yes, sir.
And who are the judges in Oxford? Are they?
They're international lawyers and judges from both Great Britain, Europe, and really around the world. There'll be some from the Middle East, from Africa, from the United States. So they pull from all over the world for their judges as well as the students.
Well, guys, we're really proud of you. And Christy, I understand you were working for the DA and the Commonwealth's attorney, and you're putting people in jail already. You haven't even graduated.
Yes, sir. I work with the Virginia Beach Commonwealth attorney as an intern right now for the whole semester.
Yeah, what a wonderful experience. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the future in law is here in front of you. I just wanted you to know it's not all hopeless. They've got some really good people. Well, we appreciate you folks for being with us, and I want to congratulate you on this win. This is the Western Hemisphere, and then they go on to Oxford. Well, with all the campaigning and all the money being spent and all the fluff and all the hype, it's finally here. But for one who was second in the Iowa caucuses, let me tell you, it isn't as big a deal as everybody makes out. More people go to the high school basketball finals than show up for these heralded caucuses. But nevertheless, everybody's looking for a marker. How does Trump do? How does Cruz do? And David Brody is in Iowa with a preview.
Our next president of the United States, Mr. Ted Cruz.
With a boost from TV personality Glenn Beck, Ted Cruz is making his final pitch to voters and asking for prayer.
You say, Father God, please continue this awakening, continue this spirit of revival, awaken the body of Christ.
Cruz needs his ground game out in force to turn out their conservative Christian supporters.
We are here for victory. Iowa is going to throw us into victory.
Mr. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump might beg to disagree. He's barnstorming around the state with high-profile evangelical Jerry Falwell Jr. In an exclusive backstage interview this weekend, Trump told me he hopes for the best.
You gonna win Iowa? Well, we're gonna try. I'll tell you what, we're gonna try. The poll just came out, we're leading.
In terms of evangelical support, Cruz leads, with Trump placing a solid second. Falwell Jr. tells CBN News evangelicals can trust him.
I really do believe he would be a friend to evangelicals, and I think there's so many that believe like we do, but when they get in office, they aren't friends to evangelicals.
The wild card out here is Marco Rubio. He's coming on strong in the polls as he makes faith and policy a big part of his message.
We will defend religious liberties, not because we seek to impose our views on anyone, but because you have a right to live out the teachings of your faith in every aspect of your life.
As for the Democrats, a close race is expected too. Self-proclaimed socialist Bernie Sanders is playing to standing room only crowds out here and promising more big government policies.
I want to expand Planned Parenthood funding. We're not attacking Planned Parenthood. We're going to make them stronger.
As for Hillary Clinton, she has a slight lead here by preaching a populist message.
I will not raise middle-class taxes. It is not right. People have not recovered from the Great Recession. We're going to go after the people who have done well.
While the Democrat race has turned tighter by the day, the main course is still going to be Trump versus Cruz. A Trump win in evangelical-heavy Iowa could open a path to the nomination. When all is said and done, this Republican race in Iowa will ultimately be determined by voter turnout. If the turnout is larger than normal, well, then Donald Trump is poised for a big victory here. If it's smaller than normal, then Ted Cruz could very well take the top prize here in Iowa. David Brody, CBN News, in Des Moines, Iowa.
So I said, folks, Iowa's important, but it's nothing compared to what's coming up. They've got to go through New Hampshire, which is a big one. And right after that, South Carolina. And then after that, they start getting some of these winner-take-all states. And you have groupings of states. So it's a long haul. It's not some sprint. I mean, this will just be the first of many. And everybody's focusing in on Iowa. But trust me, as one, I was second in Iowa. I didn't really understand what's there. But in order to win Iowa, here's the way it works. You got to get your people into the cold basement of some church or school someplace. Snows outside, it's muck, and, you know, it's cold. And here you are. Now, your people have a chance to make a pitch in your behalf if you're a candidate. And there's another candidate, and he's got a man, somebody else got a man, somebody else. And the poor people have got to sit there in the freezing cold.
You're used to it. Those are my people in Iowa. Yeah, my mom's family's from Iowa.
It's not that
They're hardy.
I don't love them, but it takes a hardy soul to listen to a bunch of dreary speeches.
Well, now that's another story.
Right. And then they have an informal way of counting. You mark down what you like, and so they then count them up. And then they pick up a telephone call and say, well, this is precinct 58. Wow. And I've got 20 for Terry, and I've got 10 for Pat.
And it doesn't always go the way everybody thinks it's going to go.
But when it's all over, Terry, it doesn't mean much of anything.
It's just the beginning.
Yeah, it's just the beginning. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, keep an eye on it because, man, I got some big headlines. I mean, the headline was Robertson beats Bush. I had a sitting vice president hear this unknown out of Virginia, and huge headlines, Robertson beats Bush. Wow. And they had cartoons of the burning bush. I mean, it was... But when it was all over with, it was a flash in the pan. It was over.
Easy come, easy go, right?
Easy go. But that's the American way, ladies and gentlemen.